Dr. Allan Thom from England, United Kingdom. He is the current president of the World Federation of Orthodontics. It's a pleasure and an honor to have you here in Brazil and in Rio for this International Congress of the ABOR.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's a great honor. I travel the world to many, many conferences, but to be here at this very special conference in Brazil, and my first conference in Brazil, is quite wonderful, and I'm having a wonderful time here. I'm enjoying it very much indeed. Thank you.
Great. Dr. Thom, I have some questions. I think it would be interesting for our audience to know a little bit more about WFO. Brazil has a huge number of dentists. We are over 320,000 dentists in the country. Statistics say that 1 out of 5 dentists in the world is Brazilian. And orthodontics is the specialty with the largest number of representatives. We have about 28,000 orthodontists in Brazil. About 23% of all the specialists in the country. But unfortunately, just a small percentage of these orthodontists is interested in joining the entities like ABOR and consequently WFO. This situation happens in several other countries. In your opinion, how important it is to be a part of an organization like ABOR and WFO?
Thank you very much. It's a very pertinent question, because it's a question that one would apply, as you rightly say, in many places in the world. But I think there's no doubt about it that to be a member of your national and or your regional, and if appropriate, your international organization gives a very special stamp to you. And patients wish to be assured that the orthodontist that is treating them is appropriately educated, and by that I mean orthodontically educated. National, regional, and sometimes international organizations give guidance to the public and to patients that those that are treating them for their orthodontic conditions are appropriately trained, as I mentioned. Equally so, I think it's important that an individual can demonstrate that by belonging to their national associations, and if appropriate, as I said, their international organizations, that they are following appropriate guidelines which are put down nationally and internationally. Of course, guidelines are different from country to country, and we can't transfer guidelines from one country to another. But it does give patients some reassurance. And of course, a patient wants to be reassured that the person, the orthodontist treating them, is as good as, if not better, than any other orthodontist in that city.
Thank you. Orthodontics is the oldest specialty of dentistry, and maybe one of the most organized ones. And WFO is the highest entity in world orthodontics. Could you list some of the WFO activities around the world for us, please?
Thank you very much. Yes, there are many. And it is appropriate that if we have a world organization, that there would be many. But perhaps we ought to think first of all about the International Orthodontic Conference, which is organized every 5 years by the WFO in conjunction with a national organization. And as many know, next year it's going to be Japan. Last time it was in England. We've had Paris, we've had Sydney, we've had America. And of course, perhaps at this time we can say the most important one and exciting is 2025 is going to be in Rio. Maybe we'll discuss that later. So, first of all, the international organization. Secondly, we have the Journal of the World Federation of Orthodontists, a highly recognized journal. as a journal which gives all members of the WFO the opportunity not only to have it online, but of course they have the opportunity, particularly residents, to actually contribute to that and put some of their publications into the World Journal of Orthodontics. We have the Gazette, which is an excellent publication. It's newsworthy, it's chatty, it's easy to read, and it gives details of so much that is going on around the world, such as this conference will be publicized in the next issue of the Gazette. So it gives one an indication of what's going on around the world. And of course one is, by being part of the WFO, you're part of a orthodontic family around the world. So there are many, many, many aspects, particularly to residents and newly qualified graduates, to be able to relate to their colleagues around the world.
Good, thank you. Well, the next question is about a serious problem we are facing in Brazil. It's related to education. Brazil occupies a prominent place in world orthodontics for the quality and the number of the scientific publications, for the excellence in the treated cases, and for the creativity of our professionals. But however, due to the financial crisis and the large number of orthodontic programs in the country, generating unfair competition, a great part of these programs, they have reduced the number of hours necessary to train their specialists. WFO recommends the program should be a minimum full-time 24 months, preferably 36 months, with at least 3,500 hours. Correct. Isn't it? All right. So, but the major part of these programs in Brazil that are reducing their workload, they are training their specialists in 1,000 and 1,500 hours. What do you think we can change this situation? How can we convince our future orthodontists of the importance of being well trained?
Well, first of all, the WFO is not in a position, nor would it ever be or should be in a position, to dictate to national organizations how their training program should go. That is up to the requirements that are in that country. And there may be some countries in the world where there is such a shortage of orthodontists that they need to crash course them, if you will. That's not an ideal, but it may be appropriate for that country at the time. So from that aspect, the WFO is not there to police, if you will, these organizations. However, the WFO, as you rightly say, Ricardo, has set out some minimum guidelines, and they are minimum educational guidelines. And these minimal educational guidelines came about from very detailed consultation, committee, discussion of many, many, many academics, clinicians, trainees from around the world. And it was a consensus that that number of hours of 3,500 that you rightly refer to would be the minimum that are required to train what would generally be regarded as a fully trained orthodontist. Now, I understand that many people would take shorter courses. I understand the pressure on demand, particularly perhaps from the general public, for shorter courses. But I think it's up to the individual, and it's up to the individual who follows those courses, who trains on those courses, to say to themselves, am I really as trained, am I really as good as those of my colleagues that spent 2 years or 3 years training, seeing their cases through?
Last question is about the Congress, the International Orthodontic Congress that you have mentioned before. The next one, as you mentioned, will be held in Yokohama in Japan next year. And then in 2025, we are going to host this Congress, fortunately. And we have the highest expectations about that. We'd like to know what about are the expectations of WFO in relation to these two congresses? And could you say something to motivate our orthodontists in Latin America to go to Japan?
Well, there are two aspects. First of all, are we talking about the Congress in Japan at the moment? Well, international congresses are an opportunity to network, to hear the best clinicians in the world, the best academics in the world, the best research workers in the world, presenting their material. It gives orthodontist delegates the opportunity of being there. I call it like blotting paper. You just soak it up. And at an international conference, there are so many highly respected people around that it's almost impossible not to gain some more information, both clinical, academic, research, almost without trying. So from that aspect, from the academic aspect, is a unique opportunity every 5 years. We don't have more often than every 5 years for such high quality academics coming to speak to us, and clinicians, as I've said. Secondly, it gives you the opportunity of meeting not only your peers, but your peers in other countries. What's going on in other countries? What are my orthodontic colleagues and friends doing in other countries? What's new there? Are we behind? Are we ahead? What's happening? We are a global community. The whole world is global now, and orthodontics is global as well. We're a global orthodontic family. So there's just one of the many, many things to go to the international conference. And of course, every, using my words carefully, but I would say educated, qualified as a specialist orthodontist would have to be there. It gives you the professional stamp. It gives you the passport that I've actually been there and taken part in the biggest and the best orthodontic conference ever held in the world.
Yeah, thank you. And last year, I've been in Japan. We have been there for visiting the venue where the Congress will take place. And I can assure you that it will be a wonderful Congress, because Japan is something. Yeah, and in Brazil as well. Yesterday we have been in the Rio Centro. We took Dr. Thom to visit the Rio Centro, where we are planning to organize the Congress in 2025. Did you like?
I did. I thought it was wonderful. Of course, it's the old Olympic Park, isn't it? Or what was the Olympic Park? I thought the facilities there were superb, and the ambience around it was excellent, and the convenience of being able to get from convention center, lecture halls. I was particularly impressed with the lecture halls, but to be able, the convenience of being able to get to the lecture halls, to the trade exhibition, to the other functions and the facilities easily and quickly was, I think, a great advantage. So I think we're all very excited about it.
Me too. Well, thank you very much, Dr. Thom. It was very kind of you to come here and to answer our questions.
It's been my pleasure, and thank you very much for asking me the questions and giving me the opportunity of giving some answers. Thank you.
Thank you.